All right, let's bring in our next guest. Joining me now, foreign policy expert, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, Harley Lippman, along with retired U.S. Army infantry colonel, attorney, and former Ranger training commander, Bill Connor. Do we have Bill that we can bring up here? We do have you both up here. All right, so I'm going to go to you first, Harley. What do you make of this breaking news here that at the behest of Pakistan, the president has extended the ceasefire?
Well, my sources tell me that Iran feels that President Trump is sending signals that he's very eager to make a deal. So that gives leverage to Iran. And the problem with the blockade is that effect, which is important because Iran is losing $435 million a day because they can't sell their oil, won't be felt for weeks, if not months. And lastly, the threat of bombing again by the United States, according to my sources, doesn't intimidate or worry Iran because they know America's military went after all of Iran's primary targets. So if America bombs again, it's going to only go after secondary targets. So the biggest fear of Iran over the last 47 years is an attack by the United States. But this has already happened, and they've more than survived. So they're going to be defiant. According to my sources, they don't act like they're defeated. So I don't know how we're going to get a deal where we're going to make sure that Iran doesn't have any more enriched uranium if Iran is behaving like this. At the end of the day, we're in a war, and we have to be able to finish that war to have a successful outcome. And that would require the United States to take out their oil facilities, because that would be near immediate. That would break Iran, and that would, for sure, bring them to the peace table.
Yeah, it seems, though, the president is reluctant to go that far if he doesn't have to, obviously, for the future of the country. But, Bill, I want to ask you about the fact that J.D. Vance is back at the White House. We're hearing Jared Kushner's return. So is Steve Witkoff. What do you make of this breaking development here?
No, thanks, Ike. It is a little surprising. I actually thought we would be going in to hit them. At the same time, though, this blockade does do a good bit. Even though it'll take some time, in a couple of weeks, it's really going to back up their oil completely. So it does cause a lot of damage. The other thing is, the last 2 weeks, we have been pouring military assets in. So this whole idea that we don't, number one, hitting them again is going to be about the same is just not correct. The other piece is satellites have been watching. We took out the visible launchers, but they had hidden launchers, which they've had to pull back out to replace. And all the satellites have picked that stuff up. So there's a lot to take out right now that we've had the chance over the last 2 weeks to really hone in on. And I kind of wonder right now if there's such discombobulation within the command structure, the political leadership, the IRGC is operating on its own, that I wouldn't be surprised if right now with the blockade, which technically is an act of war, technically, that we are responding to what closing the Straits of Hormuz, we're going to see what happens. Because, at this point, if Iran does anything to violate this, fires on ships, we're ready to go. We're locked and loaded, ready to go. The satellites have picked up all the imagery of what to hit. And we had not been hitting dual-use infrastructure, the bridges, the power plants and all that. So that's all there. Sources I have are that they are really in a discombobulated state. And there is the inklings of the potential for the people, finally, the 80% of the people who don't want the administration. If you can get a few of the besiege or IRGC to turn, you could see something very quickly turn into what happened to them in 1979.
Okay, so a lot of different information coming out of the country. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman says Iran hasn't decided whether to join the talks. Well, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I think that's well known. But both countries have warned that without a deal, they're going to potentially resume fighting. Obviously, we just extended that ceasefire. But Harley, you're saying that your sources are indicating that there's not urgency on behalf of Iran. The president's willing to wait till things come to a place where it's a really good deal. From your understanding, Harley, who are we actually talking to? Who are we trying to make a deal? We got about 30 seconds or so. What do you think?
It's the IRGC. They have the power. Doesn't matter what the moderates say. The IRGC controls everything and controls the military. So even if the moderates are the ones that show up at the negotiating table, that's going to be undermined and ultimately sabotaged by the IRGC. So we know what their view is. They think that they've got time on their side. They feel it's a test of will, and they believe they could hold out more and longer than President Trump can. And that's the problem.
Okay, so Bill, your thoughts to what Harley just said, and reports that, as we talked about yesterday with Brigadier General Blaine Holt, he said this is really only a courtesy negotiation from the part of the United States. We are giving them options so we can appear from an optic standpoint to be giving them chances to do the right thing. What do you think about that potentially being the case, or do you see it in a different light?
Well, I know what we've done. And again, we have poured in our resources. We've been getting intelligence, retargeting, able to hit, again, things that were hidden before are out in the open. So and Trump is pretty wily. I mean, the way they were able to take out the leadership was a huge surprise of when they did it. So we don't know all that's going on. There's a lot of things in the background. If Iran was to again violate, and frankly, they've already violated, they fired on shifts. So they do it again. We could be planning to wait for something of that nature to happen and then just unleash at that point. And, again, there's just a lot of things we don't know. I don't see us right now as being in any kind of, lesser position. The Iranians there's a lot of bluster, which is kind of normal for what we've seen. They do want to try to stall for time, but they're on their backs right now. And they're in the third tier of leadership, and they got a population they've got to hold down. They are not in a good place right now. And so it'll be interesting, again, to see what the plan is, but we're ready to hit them and hit them hard.
If only they had internet in Iran and we could get a little more intel on the ground here. Harley Lippman, Bill Connor, thank you both for joining us and your great insight. Appreciate it. All right, and coming